lost the sub 1 anyway, so don't give it to Dials. That's the message there. Silent is the second man there for Immunity, and Sejuani here, 5.5. As always, Sejuani, nobody wants to play against her.
Patch 5.5 junglers, none stronger on this patch with that new Cinder Hulk item than Sejuani, so a very standard ban, makes sense. The super tanks in both the jungle and the top being targeted, that's been the OPL way.
Yeah, and so take away the big frontliners, open up some of the more mid-game AD carries that maybe can't tank bust as well, which is King's big wheelhouse as well. But Uber Bro, it's funny that Sivo, who's fallen off a lot, is a contested pick once upon a time for these two AD carries, but Cassidy's going to eat a 5.5 ban.
I mean, we know how well Cheese played on this Cassidy. We saw the mid Cassidy coming out from him the last time he came out, made a massive carry performance on that team. They're obviously showing respect, but they're, you know, removing the potential for a first pick. I guess with the tweaks, perhaps the upside of Cassidy isn't what it used to be, but still a very strong champion in the late game, but not being considered this time by Immunity.
Yeah, I've only seen it in that one mid lane performance since the changes, so not sure if, you know, it's something that still is in the top lane. Perfection, though, does like to play mages, but we'll settle for something else for now. As Dial's the last ban, it is Nautilus, and that's a support ban, Papa Smith.
Absolutely, the supporterless, as we love to call it, has been target banned. Showed a lot of power. I believe Sudden Fear played it twice. In one game was one of the critical things. So much CC from a support. I believe 4 CCs coming out from that champion. The moment he gets buffed, you remember, man, when Nautilus ganks your lane, you're not in a very good spot with all the CC and gap close he has.
No, and I mean, could be in the jungle there as well. We talk a lot about tank junglers being big on this patch, so a surprising ban makes sense given the general flavor of 5.5, but Immunity, they've got a first pick to make here. We've seen Rumble, we've seen Maokai be popular as well. Wonder what they want to go for.
I think Maokai has the most upside of the picks. Just so strong in both a 1v1, a 1v2, so flexible, and then has that great power spike in the mid game. Rek'Sai's no slouch, but, you know, with the 5.5 junglers, you have options against these really strong early skirmish junglers. You can go for not Sejuani this time, but one of the tank Cinderhulk junglers and just try and power up and hope that the early ganks don't pay off for the Rek'Sai.
Well, important to note that with the Rek'Sai being first picked away, Soulstrike's jungle pool with the Scion ban has been shredded to just one pick. He's only played Rek'Sai Jarvan, has one Scion game, I believe, on 5.5 that made him look great. Not going to be over here again, so you have to think if Soulstrike will continue with his tradition, that's the champion he wants.
And with them being locked in terms of second place, there's no real incentive to show that fourth jungler. He already showed the Scion, shocked us all. We were not expecting a jungle Scion, then put in a huge 13.5 KDA performance on that champion. But with playoffs just around the corner, don't show anything else. Just show the Jarvan, but they haven't locked it in. They're just going to lock in that bot lane, Janna Corki.
Yeah, they'll keep it real standard for these two. Some top performing carries for both Chopper and King here as they're going to lock in the Janna and Corki lane. Immunity, 45 seconds out to consider. They've run a lot of different strategies. Ryu, obviously a new addition to the team, changed things up quite a bit from the J.K. Smithy Renekton Malphite.
It has, but still been mostly the tanky champions. It hasn't necessarily been the jump in with the carry top performances just yet. Still new to the lineup, still don't know exactly what to expect out of Ryu, but that might actually be a tool that Immunity can exploit. I mean, these teams, they won't know that much about this new top laner.
No, important to note that the Janna, a good blocker pick as well, away from Tegon, who's been actually surprisingly, for all the jokes we made about him being an engaged support player, one of the best performing Jannas in the OPL.
And we keep coming back to this point about T-Gun's Jannas because it's not what we expect. We expect the Blitzcranks and the Threshers of the world. That's what he exploded onto both the solo queue and the competitive ladder. So there's initiation supports, but all supports, in fact, have been finding a lot of potential on those disengaged champions and the engaged champions, apart from maybe Thresh. Junie loves that Thresh, for example. People have been struggling on.
Yeah, no more popular than Morgana, which is definitely T-Gun's second string. So Morgana, Lucian actually, a bit more of a mid-game focused bottom lane, and Lucian seen quite the resurgence actually in the bottom lane.
I mean, people are just kind of coming back to him. Of course, Graves saw so much popularity, but Lucian gives you a bit more late-game potential, more of a tank buster than Graves, who can struggle on patch 5.5 when there's 2-3 members hitting 3,000 or 4,000 health. Lucian does have, you know, the 3-4 item spike with that Lightslinger passive to be able to break through those tanks, so just going up there in priority. Yeah,
the Dials again already have their Corki locked in for a very comfort pick there, so that Varus pick possibly not coming through, but we'll have to see. We can move some stuff around. We've already seen Corki Ezreal last week, I believe, or last day for week 7, where we had the Ezreal going mid with the Corki, so a bit of flexibility there and there. King's at least toying with me here, hovering over some other AD carries.
So Corki mid was actually seen in the LCS today. It was seen in China as well. People are considering those double AD carry compositions. I'd be surprised, to be honest, and look, we do see the last second change. Wow, last second
Wow.
and then some, and it's going to be the Gragas. This could be the Grungle, the jungle Gragas.
It could be. So we have Kennen for perfection, you have to think, who has a play on that champion already, but Gragas is a very different champion, and Jarvan was open if this is a jungle Gragas. Solstrax could have played it, it's his only other champion, but going to show something a bit different here.
And so I was talking about not showing that fourth jungler. The other thing you can do, if you show prowess on both Sion and Gragas, just get in there with the mines. There's that much more of a chance that either Jarvan or the Rek'Sai will be open in playoffs. So there's two ways to approach it. We're not 100% sure it's a jungle Gragas, but a lot of the tweaks to Gragas were around increasing that minion cap on the W2 monsters. So it does actually make his jungle faster. It's the most natural position for Gragas, unless it's top lane Gragas.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they've got lots of flexibility, which is the nice thing about the draft for the Direwolves so far. Immunity going to look to round things out here. That Maokai still open. Has been such a popular early pick in so many drafts, but has dropped through pretty far here as well. I mean, Ahri's open. That's another big chase champion. LeBlanc notably open here in this particular game, but Immunity going to keep it safe here. Maokai for the top lane and Xerath for cheese in the mid.
I mean, you say keeping it safe, and obviously Xerath does damage from a very long range, but it's a champion that does have counter picks. Ahri, for example, not notably a sharp champion, has played it a couple of times. I know he picked it up. He was maybe slow on the Ahri picks, but an excellent lane matchup against the Xerath. Blind picking Xerath for someone like Cheese, who has so many unique champion picks, it's interesting to me.
Yeah, big Ahri player as well, so could have just taken that if he wanted.
Sure.
The quintessential safe blind pick mid laner. So Dives are going to go through. They'll consider their last pick, but Sharp, like you said, already has a play on it. Their draft's very flexible, so maybe Cheese just took the best looking champion as far as fit goes, but they're going to get the chance to counter pick if Sharp wants it, and it looks like he does.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're going to really think about this pick. They haven't locked themselves into any sort of comps. You can see now they're actually considering something different, maybe going poke for poke with the Ezreal. Decent matchup against Xerath. It doesn't necessarily punish him in lane, but will at least split farm, and Xerath not really able to abuse the fact that the wave clear is not that high on Ezreal in the early levels. So, I mean, it was either going for the assassination potential or going for something a bit different, and they're going to keep with the fast push. Kennen, Corki, and Ezreal means turrets are going to explode from the Direwolves.
Yeah, I mean, that's the plan. They've even got the Gragas to push people on or off turrets, which is great. So, bit of a throwback there. We see a lot of Gragas ultis, but Soulstrikes, that's the big difference here. He's in the jungle. His second new jungler in as many weeks.
It's just so strange. We finally found that statistic. We're all a bit surprised. We were taken back. Like, really? 2 junglers only from the jungler for the second place team, Soulstrikes, but so effective on Rek'Sai and Jarvan. The patches change, and so does Soulstrikes with these new picks.
And Gragas. I mean, we talked about Cinderhulk champions. Gragas, not the one on my radar, I guess, but it seems fine.
I mean, you don't have to go Cinderhulk. You could still go Magus, because AP on Gragas is still fine. I mean, you kind of have to think about Gragas, because he's a very flexible champion, but he provides a lot of different things, especially from the jungle. For one, he's a jungler with a lot of wave clear. You can just max that Q and happily get in there, clear waves, helps out Ezreal and Corki, who can clear waves, but are sometimes gated by spells and cooldowns. So it has strong ganks, of course, with the ability to gap close with the E, a slow. The Q's now, of course, a big slow as well, 90% slow if it's charged up. And the ultimate, you already explained it, Pastry Time. You can do so many flexible things. Push people off a turret, reposition a carry. A very flexible champion. Just an exciting one to see back on the competitive scene.
Yeah, be interested to see how Soulstrikes does play, given his general performances across the split here. But looking through very standard stuff, I have to say, for Immunity, nothing really out of the ordinary. I guess it makes sense. They need some wins, so they're going to keep their picks nice and safe.
I mean, the safety I can see, specifically we're talking about the Xerath is the interesting pick to me, just because it was a blind pick mid. Could have gone for the Ahri and just, opted into a skill matchup. Has shown proficiency on that champion, but went for Xerath for wave clear. They have a Lucian who has decent wave clear, but just a bit like Corki, gated on spells. The Maokai coming up so late is a surprise. Maokai's almost been a first pick, first ban champion for a couple of patches now. Hasn't seen any relevant changes, but is very powerful. But I guess, as you mentioned, flexibility and AoE damage from Gragas, from Kennen in particular, even the Corki missiles, going to be negated by that Vengeful Maelstrom.
And I guess the top lane's a good next place to go here, just because, what do you think about the matchup? We've talked about Maokai, super popular, super flexible, almost always seen across the regions as just such a strong first pick. But Kennen, if any champion can at least give him a hard time, I feel like Kennen's not too bad there.
Yeah, so with the resurgence of Kennen, you've got a lot of things to consider. First, they're both equally good in lane swaps, which is surprising when you think, okay, one of them's a melee champion. The other one's Kennen, who used to be an AD carry not many patches ago. Okay, quite a few patches ago, but still can pick up that Doran Blade lane very safely and all that things. They're both good in 1v2. They're both pretty flexible. In terms of a lane matchup, it's still range versus melee, so a lot of auto attacks and the early lane control to the cannon, but he's a no-mana champion with short cooldowns. That Maokai passive is going to proc a lot. He can happily build into a Spectre's Cowl and just push through the lane. So it's even in a lot of ways. They just do different things in team fight. One's a tank lockdown. The other one, we know that slicing Maelstrom. It can rip apart a fight.
Yeah, and that's been Perfection's big thing as a team player. Actually, again, has a pretty, for all the plays he's made and for how impressive he's looked, for how many MVPs this guy has, actually a surprisingly poor KDA for his team. Chuffer, believe it or not, actually holds the crown for the Dials as far as overall KDA goes. But Perfection's a big playmaker. That's his job in the top lane. And you can tell in his champion pool, Morgana, Rumble, Kennen, Hecarim, he's all about big, high-impact ultimates.
It's crazy that they're two carries. I mean, you probably say the two sheer carries of this Dials lineup are the ones with the lower KDAs. You know, Perfection and King, they're playmakers. But I mean, King, he does so much damage. He plays hyper carry, so it makes sense that he kills a lot of people. Then he gets focused down by multiple divers, right? That's just how he plays. Whereas Perfection, he takes over games. That Hecarim game in particular, there's a reason this guy has never seen Hecarim apart from that one game, because he totally ran that game against tough opposition. So they're both playmakers. They don't have the KDAs to show up, but they're usually the keys to a Dials victory.
Yeah, and for Immunity, seem to be sort of warming up a bit as well. We talked about their composition. Very standard looking stuff. They've got pretty much very comfortable lanes across the board here. Comfort champions, you have to say, for a lot of their players as well. For me, I guess I'm worried, especially if Immunity move towards playoffs. I feel like their style's quite easy to dissect because they've not done too big a job of mixing things up really heavily, except for maybe the Swain Malphite Sivir that we used to see.
I was going to say, I mean, this is the team that plays Swain like no other team in the world. Of course, we see a bit of top Swain from Quas, from Team Liquid, but certainly not a meta pick, especially in the mid lane. But Sivir Swain, we saw the potential of that. There might be a reason we haven't seen it since very early in the season, perhaps trying to show the seeds of doubt and disbelief to these other teams. They're still capable of some really interesting off-meta picks. Cheese has played so many unique champions in the mid lane. Maybe start with Comfort. They just need one win today. 2 would be ideal, but they'll take 1. That gets them to playoffs, so it makes sense. Maybe start with the standard and maybe throw everything out in the last game if they can't pick up the victory here.
I mean, maybe Ryu's the big difference here because he was the change here. It's not the same big tank player in JK Smithy. It's not the Malphite, which, by the way, I think has 3 plays from JK Smithy only and 3 wins in the OPL. So he's the only guy doing it, and it made the team look so good when they put the comp together. For me, Ryu's been, I think, up and down. He has not played very many games at all. It's something like 3 or 4 matches, possibly even including this one. So still coming into his own in the top side of the map. Played a lot of standard champions, Rumble, Maokai, still fitting in. So if he has a big game today, I think now Immunity starts to get that synergy going and really push towards playoffs.
Well, it's hard to get a read on Ryu just because he's playing a similar champion. It's maybe not the Renekton of the top lane, but still, I mean, Maokai, very, very standard. Playing those tanks, I kind of want to see him pioneer a new pick or kind of separate himself from JK Smithy because it feels like Immunity are playing the same, but just with a different person in the top lane.
I mean, that's effectively what's happening, but Ryu's just has, I guess, more of a standardized champion pool. Maybe that's what Immunity looks for, but they've looked very strong as a team, and they're going to have to look very strong this evening. Tough road ahead for Immunity, but their playoff dreams are on the line here. So we'll start off our first game of the evening. Immunity on the blue side, Dials on the red, and like we said already, the Wolves comfortably in the second spot. It's Immunity who are fighting an uphill battle.
And we've already said Immunity have had the frustration of defeat and close defeats, missing out on events. All this, their fate's in their own hands, their destiny's in their own hands. They can take it and win one of these games, and if they don't, they'll only have themselves to blame. All of the focus is on Team Immunity this game. It's be exciting to see how they open up this game, but Direwolves, they're opening up with aggression.
Yeah, real aggressive here, just moving in, trying to get some of those deep trinket wards down, possibly trying to scout for some sort of swap, but the 2v2 lane seem fine. Ryu actually will get spotted off here, but now the damage is going to come through. Tornado going to move Ryu back. Soul Strikes has to get out there as a bit of poke comes back and forth, so nothing massive there, just some deep wards down and everybody gets out safely.
But very early, the first minute, you have to say, definitely won by Direwolves. They have very aggressive vision down, and no answering vision came down from Immunity. In fact, they went defensive and just tried to look for a pick or a fight. Probably surprised was Ryu to see the 5 members, but they have their trinkets available, 3 trinkets available, and no extra information got them, but there might be a late charge on this mini-map. It looks like they might try and get some information of their own.
Yep, Direwolves probably going to start on the other side of the jungle. To see Uberbro will ward up the Gromp there for a bit of vision towards that blue side. Again, I don't think anybody wants to look for a swap, but Direwolves seem to have initiated one.
And Direwolves have definitely opted into a swap. You can tell because, of course, they're not in the bottom lane. They're the team that's moving towards the top lane. They have excellent vision of the blue side jungle. So, look, it should be a very obvious top vertical side of the jungle for Direwolves, and the safe spots for immunity, if they follow standard conventions, will be this bottom half of the jungle, and of course, Dragon Control.
Yeah, Perfection going to follow though as well, so him and Soul Strikes will team up in the jungle. Zahi currently solo with his top laner stranded almost, so we talked about Ryu being the new player on this team. Direwolves might just be trying to get him a bit off kilter at the start of the game, although Perfection has now teleported down to the bottom.
And it's these lane swap situations which are unique to the highest level competitive play. Scrims and just these massive games are the ones where you don't get much of a chance in solo queue to really check them out, as T-Gun shows up level 1 in the mid lane, doesn't have binding. So just with the harassment game, a bit Nunu-esque there from the Morgana.
I mean, gets a bit of money there from his spell thieves, but the Direwolves knew that he didn't have binding, so almost a mind game there, because he actually threw out the soil at the level 1 for a bit of extra money. Kind of funny to see that, but no freeze, it seems like, on the top side for the Direwolves, so Ryu will not get too heavily punished, and like you already mentioned, Bubba Smithy, Maokai is fine in almost any situation.
So much ranged farming, a slightly lower, higher cooldown on the E, but with the sapling toss, he does quite a lot of burst damage. Then, if it's ever pushed into you, you max that the Q, the Arcane Smash first, AoE clear, always safe, even has sustain, and with 2 people in his lane, probably going to be those 5 spells to get the passive proc. Very safe laner, and so is Perfection on this cannon.
Yeah, and I tell a lie, by the way. It's actually a very good job by King in the top side, letting that wave reverse and push back towards him. So, didn't see if the freeze started, but right now Ryu is completely starved of early resources.
I mean, the Direwolves are the one to initiate the swap. They got to lane first, so it's very well frozen. And Ryu, he's going to have a hard job in a 1v2 anyway, but now he might as well just go into the jungle and get a bit of help, otherwise a dive might be on.
I mean, the issue is that he started in the top lane, so can't really find a jungle. Now finally hits level 2 with the sapling helping him out, but good harass there by Chopper using his spell thieves to get a bit of early damage down. Soul Strikes has taken over the top side of the map, so nowhere fun for Ryu to go right now.
Off screen, Perfection had to use his flash after a very aggressive gank came through from Zahi, using that tunnel behind the turret, taking a turret shot, but taking out a summoner, and now in a 1v2 with no flash on cannon, surprisingly vulnerable.
Yeah, and no teleport either. Used it to get to the bottom lane after helping with the Krugs in the top side of the map. So a couple of potions and a Warden and an Amp Tome of Perfection buys very bare in the inventory indeed. But he'll go back, he'll do what he can, but Immunity are continuing to try and freeze down the bottom. But you can see already 13-1 CS on that top side, a big win early on for the Wolves.
It's a good rotation coming through from Immunity. We already know that T-Gun's skilled pool at level 1. It does help to AoE wave clear between the saplings and potentially the putting down the W, the Tormented Soil. That might be enough for them to try and push this lane. And they need to get the reset, or as Ryu, he could be in single-digit CS values for a long time.
Yeah, but T-Gun babysitting him a little bit now, giving him some more time to at least soak some experience, if not catch up a little bit in CS as well. Perfection, though, using, again, that ranged auto attack and his Q to try and farm where he can. Uberbro is keeping the wave in a good spot, but Perfection, not too worried about it, despite having no summoner spells left.
And this rotation does open up a 1v1 lane for Kennen. Always been a strong laner, even against Lucian. He actually has more attack range than Lucian, 550 to 500. Doesn't really want to trade with him in terms of autos, but free farm and perhaps most significantly, solo experience means that slicing Maelstrom, it's going to be open early.
Yeah, Perfection, as we said, even without too many resources, he's not too bad. But Soulstrike can get caught in the jungle here. Zahi going to move in now as well with the damage. Just a bit of aggression, though, and that Drunken Brawler fighting very well 1v1.
He will be maxing the barrel first. The Q is the first max coming through from Gragas, so we will have ranged wave clear. He's going actually back onto Zahi. They're fighting over this pink ward, but eventually goes over to Immunity.
Yeah, they do get a bit of an early vision advantage as T-Gun is still hiding in the top side of the map. Ryu, though, has gone back here, got a second Doran's Ring and a couple potions, plus some wards, just to get a bit of extra vision of any potential ganks moving in. Morgana trying to soak some experience, and King again, trying to keep the wave as far back as possible.
Both trying to pressure Perfection in the bottom lane. Look, it's just very standard lanings. Direwolves, they have the big advantage, though, having Perfection being the one to get the solo experience. Maokai has to share it. Just means slower to level 6, slower to item timings. Righteous Glory is going to be delayed. Of course, the Catalyst, needless to say, the first item is going to be delayed. They got a little bit of pressure in the top lane. Yep, T-Gun's going to stick up there.
It's also actually quite aggressive there as well, but will E through into the back of the Dragon Pit and be okay. Cheese just fine here as well, keeping up very competitively there on the Xerath, which makes sense given that both these mid laners very safe, very standard. Tier already picked up for Sharp, in fact, and we talked a little bit about it, but can maybe go on a bit more. Sharp just loves his defensive mid laners.
I mean, he just loves the wave clear. He's the Xerath player we expected to see a lot, but only one Xerath game this season is a surprising statistic. As we see the trades coming through from Cheese, they're both going to be familiar with these champions. They've both played. I believe there's been an Ezreal game and a Xerath game for both mid laners. So just powering up in the mid lane. Xerath is going to get to level 9 soon when he can start to really aggressively push in the mid lane. He still has a pushing advantage now at level 6. Whereas Sharp, he wants the blue buff to just help him charge up that tier.
Yeah, they're both just continuing to farm up very nicely. Very even now, actually, as the 53rd CS does get picked up by Sharp. Back down the bottom. Big lead there for Perfection as far as CS goes against Ryu. More than double that Paul Maokai is continuing to get frozen. And King, very patient, not too aggressive, just keeping the wave back for as long as he can afford to.
200 gold is the overall lead. That's completely just CS coming through. And again, it's because of the aggressive swap that came through from Immunity. T-Gun's in the mid lanes. He used Exhaust on Sharp.
He's actually, good cleanse there from Sharp will get him out of the binding, but can't do that for too much longer. Cheese even might look for the ulti. Sharp will juke a couple of them. Last ball is flashed actually, but Cheese so aggressive. Now Sharp are going to try and save him, but first blood goes to Cheese solo there. T-Gun comes in just to save him, but great play in the mid lane.
But the rotation from Immunity, that was really on point. 3 members in the mid lane. Even Rek'Sai to potentially lap up a kill if it didn't fall through. I mean, Shuffle was there with the shield. It was almost enough, but overall, the pressure coming into mid lane, very on point from Immunity.
And I have to give credit for T-Gun there with an ingenious-looking first buy there. King, though, going to get aggressive onto Ryu. Gatling gun, the Frost Bomb, doing good damage at level 4, but let's see that again.
So the cleanse comes out instantly. I noted this at level 1. Even if he had skilled binding, he would have been safe. Sharp needed to hit 2 ultimate hits to secure the kill. Didn't, but because the flash was aggressively, i.e. towards the turret, opened up the flash engage. Dark binding was available. At Zahi, even there, if anything changed, excellent rotation from Team Immunity.
Yeah, so just in the right spot. And again, T-Gun early boots the mobility was what I wanted to point out. Doesn't have a sight stone yet, delaying his first buy, and he's been aggressively moving around the map, so you can tell why he's gone for such an early boots too.
Direwolves, they're trying to get control over this dragon. It looks like they had ceded dragon control after initiating the lane swap top, but now that they had the 1v1 matchup for a long time, I mean, Cannon's effectively a range carrying that bottom lane, doing just fine. Chuffer might be caught.
Yeah, actually does get stunned up there as well. Zahi going to follow him with the Unborrowed. T-Gun's moving through. The damage is good, and Zahi will get the first kill. Now Soulstrike's going to get chased out. It's forced to flash away. No follow-up CC there, just a couple of wards, but that might seed the first dragon to Immunity.
And that trade would have been so different if Soulstrikes had level 6. I imagine it would be very close. Yes, just about 1 camp away from level 6. The disengage from that ultimate would have been significant in that trade, but of course level 6 got them the mobility. Zahi using the ultimate to get in, and just no answering ultimate from Soulstrikes.
Yeah, no dragon coming out though for Immunity, so going to play it a little safe here, I guess. Afraid that Ryu can't join him because he's very unhealthy versus King in the top lane, who's started to aggressively push the waves in. Still that CS lead there for Perfection, 20 up. So catching up a little bit, still quite far behind. And King, he's starting to pressure that turret now because Ryu has to go back.
Yeah, King, look, you have to remember that this is a double AD coming through from the Direwolves. Triple ADS because, of course, a lot of auto attack damage coming out from Cannon. But a double AD should be double AP, but it looks like it's going to be Tank Gragas from the Ruby Crystal in the item, but probably will be the Cinderhulk pickup. You're still expecting a lot of early turret damage, and there is a scenario where Ryu gets tanky enough to deal with what Immunity is doing.
Yeah, so they're just going to try and deny their Maokai for as long as they can, although down the bottom lane, poor Perfection off screens. Actually used his ultimate in a bit of a pickle there.
Yeah, there was actually another Dark Binding hitting from T-Gun, but no lethal damage coming through. Just coming back to the comps, a tank like Maokai can outscale a double AD comp. We always talk about that time when Randall and Thornmail usually is the 3rd or 4th item that seals the death for the double AD comp. There is a lot of mixed damage coming from Sharp, but oh my goodness, Soulstrikes.
Oh, great ulti there from Soulstrikes. Cheese actually going to answer back. He does get the kill with the turret. Sharp should be able to follow in and does get the double buff, but another great outplay by Cheese. Now T-Gun going to come in. 2-man ulti to start things off. Exhaust there as well. Chopper can't get Perfection off. A great binding arrow, and Uberbro collects the kill. Now Chopper actually could be in trouble. Will get chased down. No follow-up CC left, but another great play by T-Gun.
T-Gun and Cheese are doing everything they can to get Immunity that victory, get them to playoffs in the first game of the day. In the mid lane, Cheese picking up that kill he had no right to in a 2v1. The extra turret hit that Soulstrikes took sealed his fate. And in the bottom lane, T-Gun, I don't even know if he's missed a binding all game.
Doesn't look like it here. I mean, just been so good from the early boots choices and all the roaming he's already been able to do just from his aggression and pinpoint skill shots. Fantastic play early on. Direwolves have swapped back down, so no team will get an obvious dragon advantage as far as manpower goes, but the Direwolves haven't even gotten a turret here. They've swapped down basically knowing that they have to stop their first upcoming dragon.
An Immunity against a double AD comp, a comp that will naturally outscale over this game. 1,000 gold, 1,200 in fact, ahead of the Direwolves. Also have had the dragon control. No dragons picked up, but still no dragon advantage for the double AD comp, no gold advantage. It's looking like we might reach a scenario where the double AD just can't get any purchase on the map. They need turrets down early and none at all across the map in 12 minutes.
And you know what? If Immunity do have that scaling advantage, and it's in their best interest just to delay the first dragon, it doesn't matter that you don't have it. It just matters that the wolves aren't snowballing it away from you.
I mean, it's in their advantage to delay the game in general page time. Get items onto Ryu. He's been the one held down the most, 52 to 72 CS in terms of his lane or eventual lane opponent, now lane opponent in perfection on the cannon. He's the one that will stack the armor. He's the one that will negate a lot of what the double AD comp is doing. So this game getting to 30, 40 minutes can only help Team Immunity.
Yeah, Ryu does have to maybe be a bit careful of perfection now. It has gone back and finished up a needlessly large rod. Cinderhawk enchantment done for Soul Strikes as well. Plus we've got the strong parts of the Trinity Force, Sheen plus Fade, and a Manamuno done for Sharp. So the Wolves, a bit behind in gold, but strong early item timings already.
And look, we have to mention the fact that Corki does a lot of mixed damage. It won't necessarily just be a Thornmail to be a death knell, but it'll be such a significant factor, and double AD does naturally trail off if you can't get those early turrets, if you can't get those earlier advantages. It's not pigeonholed to the other game. There's still a late game that open up. We've seen what mid-Ezreals in particular can do in the late game, expecting a Trinity Force to be coming through from Sharp. It's just so much more difficult if you can't get that early snowball.
And Sharp in trouble again, though. Cheese actually has used his ulti, but Ezreal almost getting killed there. 1v1 again there by Cheese, has already got his Morellonomicon finished up. We've seen his Xerath before, haven't seen it too many times since because his first game was just so good, and you can kind of tell why.
I mean, look, Xerath is a very strong champion. I've been surprised this particular Shurima mid lane has fallen away. Azir makes sense as Zahi and Soul Strikes have a bit of love taps behind. It's only a jungle tank Gragas, so not the burst damage coming through just yet.
No, decent brawler damage though. Zahi now will actually rotate into the mid and team up with Chase to potentially take the first turret and actually ult away there as Sharp's going to come against Soul Strikes moving through, but another roam by T-Gun. Sharp almost eats the binding and they won't get the tower, but he'll save his mid laner.
It was a really cheeky explosive cast pushing the jungler into turret range with Sharp being there to help. Didn't importantly have the True Shot Barrage available for potentially a kill, but it was just a nice adaptation. It's on a short cooldown, that explosive cast.
Yeah, we can see now Uber continuing to push in. Infinity Edge will be his first buy here. Very standard stuff coming through for that Lucian. And he's almost there as well, actually. Good CSing so far. Looks like he does have enough gold to complete it.
Has enough gold for probably a ward and that Infinity Edge, maybe even some potions, but that's a big power spike. He'll go back into lane with a significant power spike. In terms of Trinity Force, has the gold for the Trinity Force, but King not leaving the lane just yet.
And, we talk a lot about Corki being such a strong Trinity Force user. How much of a difference is there in these first item timings for the AD carries?
I think Corki has probably the biggest one-item power spike in the game in terms of Trinity Force. Scales with the AP, the AD, so good in those sieges when he can poke people down, get Trinity Force procs onto a turret. Sharp and King should hit a power spike very, very soon and rotate and try and take down turrets. That's usually the go button when you have the Trinity Force on the Corki and then just working towards a Trinity Force on the Ezreal.
Yeah, so almost go time here. You have to think for the dives as soon as King can find a spot to actually go back and spend his gold. But that's going to make this first dragon potentially a bit awkward here. Again, 15 minutes in, no dragon done. King they're going to get chased. T-Gun goes riding with the black shield on top of him. King can't really get away there. The Shackle's still chasing him. Another great binding. Now Rek'Sai's going to come in. The teleport will answer through as well. T-Gun little too low now as Perfection's going to run in as well. Ryu has already potted in. He pops his ulti with Perfection, but it's maybe not enough. Chopper getting a bit low there, but can't ulti him away. There's the first kill. Knock up Azahi. Going to make it a double, and now they'll keep running through. The rest of the Wolves will get away, but 2 clean kills for nothing.
A team fight initiated by Immunity, and well done. Of course you want to initiate that team fight before the Trinity Force comes through. Power spike for Lucian, no power spike for King, as Chopper's taking a lot of damage. I think all 3 bolts hit, went straight through the shield. Not enough damage to kill, but certainly a worrying omen for late game.
Yeah, Ezreal going to miss that as well. So the first dragon does go to Immunity. Soul Strike's going to go down there as well. Another kill there for Uberu. That's 3 in the last few minutes.
Another binding as well. 5 assists now for the Morgana. Zahi going in aggressively. Probably not going to turret dive. Don't ever mobile Ezreal.
No, they can continue their pressure though and actually push in and take away the turret if they want to. We'll give up the rotation though. Sharp, little too scary there with everyone else respawning. So only the last few kills, 7-1 up for Immunity. Got the first dragon, no towers yet, but 3,000 gold up already.
And let's just talk about the team fight selection that came through from Immunity during that particular fight. Look at the item pickups here. Zhonya's now completed for Perfection. Trinity Force now completed for King. Neither of those
game that he got to play it on. Cannon's a champion that you can really bully people with, and I've been surprised that he hasn't had the 1v1 matchup, but would he pull back into the game? But there's Perfection, still on the top side.
Yeah, Perfection and King, they're the laners. We always talk about 20, 30 CS advantage on average over their enemies, but in the lane swap, particularly without the rotational play, in fact, being out-rotated by the enemy support, you're losing the advantage of those top-tier mechanical players.
Zahi now going to look for a gank as well. Perfection does not have his ultimate, so Ryu going to lock him up. The damage will come in as Umbara's going to move in as well. The ultimate taken away from Ryu, and Perfection just nowhere good to go. And Zahi will collect another kill.
You could have used the Zonias only on 90-second cooldown just to delay it by 2.5 seconds, but it was inevitable coming through from Immunity. Another good rotation, another kill.
Yeah, and that's been the story of the first 20 minutes here from Immunity as Soul Strikes. We're going to clear away his buff here. Might be building towards a quick Aegis here, so going to go again very tanky, very support-oriented jungling here from Dials. But the first tower of the game will go to Immunity here. They'll take out the top side. Ryu going to get a bit of extra global gold for himself, and Immunity just all over this map right now.
I mean, the scary thing for Soul Strikes in particular, you look down the enemy team, double AP to some degree, of course Maokai had magic damage, but not a big magic damage dealer. Xerath, plenty of magic damage and a good start. However, this Lucian's 4-0. You cannot help your team as a Gragas, apart from maybe using the cast to get him the hell away from a team with an item pickup. So he's going to go the Aegis, but he's going to be very squishy to Uberbro.
Yeah, Cheese here with his blue buff in the middle side of the map as well. Zahi just off to the side there. Clearing away the Scuttle Crab will take that away, but Cheese is actually moving for a Zonias, it looks like here, so very defensive choice, but maybe a little bit wary of some of the dive potential, especially from that cannon.
I mean, the big worry, of course, for the Xerath is being aggressed upon is, for example, assassins. Cannon not a true assassin, but getting in there with the slicing maelstrom, just having the Zonias to reset that. Okay, it's not magic resist, it's armor, but it'll do decent duty and it'll give you the stasis to potentially get away from the slicing maelstrom. It's a smart pickup.
Yeah, I like it here from Cheese. A very cerebral mid laner. Loves to, have his counter picks and just plays a very strong, very aggressive landing style, but always calculated. And now this tower that he's prepped for so long here with all the wave clear goes down Ryu. Another great rotation by Immunity, and that gold lead continues to grow.
It's a consistent point we bring up for Ezreal's is that after they pick up the tier, they don't have the best wave clear. So now that they fell low, it makes sense that the Soul Strikes actually stays on during the Valkyrie.
Yeah, another Shackles there. King has just been tormented by this Morgana as Chuffa is forced to flash over the ridge to safety. The last outer turret is the bottom side, and Immunity have already rotated 4 people towards it.
So King's 10 CS on his opponent, that's definitely not an instant. It's been the consistent part over the game, but 0-1-0 against 4-0. Uberbro's really beasting it up on the Lucian. Been playing a lot of Jinx this season, but of course towards the end of the split, a lot of Lucian around the world, and you start to see why.
Yeah, he's going to take away this turret with that Lucian as well. Dials cannot defend it as Uberbro with the black shield on top of him. Going to make any sort of counter push attempt mute there, and Ryu still down towards the bottom, doesn't have his teleport, but's done a very good job roaming all the way from base to mid for a tower and then bottom for another one.
And you just keep reassessing this game. It just looks bleaker and bleaker for the Direwolves. It's 3 turrets to 0 advantage in a double AD game. Okay, that makes sense. But the advantage is not even for the double AD team. It's for IM. They're the ones to have the 3 turrets down and the dragon advantage. It's not necessarily a Dr. Mundo to run and style all over the double AD, but Maokai's going to be doing plenty of scary things in the late game.
Yeah, and that Righteous score has been completed now for you. Zahi actually taking a bit of land farm away with the Rek'Sai, because of course you can get almost anywhere across the map with your ultimate with all those tunnel networks being set up. Ryu will continue. He's actually doing quite a lot of roaming right now as the Maokai just trying to influence some of these lanes, and Cheese is still pushing in. He's probably got some gold to spend. Zeal, Avarice play done for Uberbro, moving in for that very mid-game centric static shift. And look, Dragon's back up in a minute 30. The Divers are going to struggle to compete in a team fight.
I mean, you can tell that IM have been rotationally focused. We've already recapped it with the early boots of mobility. 88 CS to 137 CS. That's a 50 CS advantage for Perfection. Even though he's died 3 times, he's actually been, with that gray screen in front of him, had to rotate back to lane multiple times. But it doesn't matter because they're so far behind in terms of map pressure here with a double AD comp.
And Cheese did not do me wrong here. We thought about the Zonias would have been a great pickup, but it's not Cheese without a quick rabbit.
It's not the Oceanic way at all, pastry time. All these Oceanic mid laners, no Zonias at all. It seems like there's almost a pact between them. It's always with the death cap.
Yeah, but Perfection now on the top side will pop his ulti. Soul Strikes is here as well to try and gank up Ryu. Doesn't use it yet. Now finally pops out a flash away there from Ryu, but still going to get stunned away. A great ulti there by Gragas as well. And Ryu going to run away, but nowhere good to go. Oh, Twisted advances away to a minion. Might actually be okay. Perfection gets in W range and takes him out.
So yeah, it does eventually fall, but they're pushing aggressively in the mid. They don't get a huge amount of turret damage, but a 5th of the health, a 4th of the health, it's a start.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that Dials need to start doing is getting aggressive in some of these lanes, but Immunity continuing to stick together in the right spot, setting up vision around the Dragon, pushing the waves back here. Zahi even going to do a little bit of casual counter jungling now as well, taking away the Grom. Probably want to push out the bottom wave if they can afford to, but Dragon number 2 is right up.
Yeah, exactly. 7 seconds away. Flash is down, but Teleport is up from Ryu, so they could definitely try and wrestle ward control. Just having a look, feels like Immunity are the ones to have the early Dragon control. They have a pink down in the river, in fact 2 pinks towards the Dragon, and they've started it already.
Yeah, already on top of the Dragon. We'll be able to take it away. Just Zahi and Uberbro actually doing plenty of early game damage with Cheese in the mid, just to make sure no push is forthcoming either. Top tower does go down. Perfection's able to pick that one up for himself, and he's starting to power up on this cannon, but it might already be too little too late. Immunity just looks so strong.
I mean, Direwolves do have some options, because remember, the Queen of Disengage is actually on the Direwolves side. Usually Cannon is countered by Janna, just because she can use that Monsoon, stop his big engage options of getting into the backline with Slicing Maelstrom. But they have the Janna. There's not a lot of disengage available on Immunity, just the single target Black Shield. But the only way to get those cannon flanks, which is realistically what you have to do, you can't just really run up to an enemy team and flash ult them. It just doesn't work. There's counter flashes, there's all sorts of other options. If you want to get that flank engage, you need aggressive wards down. So double AD team makes sense. You get the early turrets down, you put the aggressive wards in, and you get the flank. But the fact that they're so far behind in turrets feels like even with the cannon up 55 CS and growing, will they ever get that cannon ult from Perfection, one of their true carries this game, to actually take down this Immunity lineup? I'm not sure.
I mean, hard to say here. He's got an Abyssal Scepter, or is working on it with both the components in his inventory. But the push continuing for Immunity. Uberbro, especially with that Black Shield on, is very good in a siege situation if he can get in range, and just has no fear at all. Even Ryu going to come in to cover him, and plenty of artillery from Cheese as well. I mean, Immunity just sticking together, roaming in all the right spots, and Perfection is looking for that flank, still in the top lane, can't go anywhere near the mid.
Yeah, there's just no ward for him to teleport. In fact, there is one right behind the team. It'd be risky, but they have to think about doing it. They've got the item times, double Trinity Force, Muramana has been completed. Perfection, I mean, I'd like to see the flank initiate, because they're just going to lose their turret.
Yeah, Soulstrike's even used his ulti, so no other good options left. Soulstrike's going to go forward aggressively. Ryu actually going to go in, but Chopper going to use the ulti just to get Maokai out of it. Cheese will take a good bit of damage, and with Perfection missing in the top side, they will cleverly rotate away. And one of the things we did notice that T-Gon, you mentioned the lack of disengage. I love the Talisman here, just to add a little bit of extra disengage.
Exactly. You need it the moment that you see a cannon. Of course, have the Vengeful Maelstrom to cancel a bit of AoE damage, but to have a flank ward in that situation and not use it tells you just how defensive-minded Direwolves are.
I mean, the Trinity Force now complete for Sharp, so maybe we were waiting for some timings, but the Direwolves have been late to every single party this game, and that's not what they came into at all, especially picking something as mid-game centric as Ezreal Corki.
But they were pushed up so aggressively, and we still didn't see the initiate come through from Cannon. They're not confident to initiate a fight, even with those power times. Okay, they don't have an Abyssal Scepter, but Locket, double Trinity Force, Muramana, that should be enough of a go button when you have a flank ward.
Yeah, I mean, they're just taking poke at this point. Zahi even going to go in onto Perfection, try and move the cannon away. Zahi, though, a little bit too far forward. He's going to force out the ulti, but Perfection is going to get the kill, his second of the game, and Zahi too aggressive in that situation.
Okay, Zahi's too aggressive, but what are Direwolves going to get from this? They're already pushed up. The minions will start to come. There's already so much wave clear on Immunity's side with the death cap being completed on Xerath. A one-man Slicing Maelstrom at this time in the game isn't going to win Direwolves a big advantage.
No, and she is still quite a bit of mana left to go. Soulstrike's going to go in aggressively with the Black Shield, and the Flash going to keep him safe as Ryu dives out of the turret. The ulti going to come back. Soulstrike's taking a lot of damage, but does just get out there. Chuffer, that shield was so close, and King trying to get the turret. A great play from the Wolves.
But importantly, Direwolves will not pick up an objective in that trade. That's why Ryu came in aggressively. He had some AoE wave clear by acting the Slicing Maelstrom, bought time for Cheese to back off, used the ultimate, and Direwolves, they need this middle turret like no other, and they just can't get it.
No, Uberbro's returned to the fray as well. He's got himself a Static Shift and a Vampiric Scepter to complete now, so big 2 items up for Lucian, and he's only going to get stronger from this point. Soulstrike's fairly tanky, though. Actually tanked the turret for a much longer period than I expected. Sharp going to get the blue as well, so Direwolves going to start spending a bit more gold, but you said it already. That mid tower there sitting on, what, 100 HP? If they can't get it in the next few minutes, that will haunt the Direwolves the rest of this game.
And you can tell the confidence of Immunity compared to the defensive-mindedness of Direwolves. Look at Zahi going for another Oceanic special, the Trinity Force on Rek'Sai. There's no tank stats on that Rek'Sai, the melee carry against what? Gragas and Kennen. A Kennen who's actually winning in CS landslidely, 73 CS advantage. Kennen's known for exploding people, but nobody told Zahi.
Yeah, I think we can tell that Zahi used to be a Shaco man, because that is a super aggressive build coming through for the jungle. We've seen it on his Vi, seen it on a couple of the Oceanic players, and yeah, there's certainly something in the water.
It's not quite Shaco tier. I mean, there's no Infinity Edge in particular, or maybe even the Ravenous Hydra, but Trinity Force, it's damage-minded. It's already had a lot of success in the OPL specifically. Carbon has been doing massive things with that build. Look, you do a lot of damage, but you also die quickly, and you have to notice that Direwolves, they've been farming well. They still have good item timings. It's still a very risky build from Zahi, but it does open up a lot of split push pressure.
And maybe it's just the split push pressure, certainly, but just the thinking of, you know what, I think I'm going to outscale you. I'm just not going to worry about it. My team's already building me a lead. I think I have just enough time to pick this up. And, you know, that's aggressive thinking from Zahi, but in this situation, perfectly fine looking choice.
I mean, the only reason I'll counter that is that usually when you're a team that outscales and you're the jungler, you just want to help your team get to that stage, so you buy tanky just to, again, buy time for the inevitable end. And now you have to buy tank items. You delay your tank items. There's that scenario where you won't be able to get into a fight and be able to effectively do your role because of your aggressive build. But if you're that confident that you can just take this game to the late, whatever you build, you've got a Trinity Force. It's a luxury item, but it does work on Rek'Sai.
I mean, the confidence is a good word for Zahi's build there, as well as the immunity will continue their push. That mid lane turret quite low and will actually go down the cast. Not enough, though. Good binding onto Chuffer just to keep him away. The locket pop there as well by Direwolves. They've got good tools. Perfection has actually finished his Abyssal Scepter, and no Aegis completed yet for IM. So they can find that flank. Perfection can certainly make some fireworks.
T-Gun takes down a ward. They again have Dragon Control. Would be the third Dragon if they aggress onto it, but they want to fight.
They do want to fight. Zahi going to flash on Burrow forward onto Shot. The T-Gun getting very aggressive, and Soul Strike's been caught in the crossfire as well. Perfection, though, going to come back in. Cheese gets melted. Perfection going to find the second onto Ubero, and all of a sudden, the immunity carries the dead. 3 people down. King running away, but Ryu going to get stunned up as well. There's the double for Ezreal, and 4-0 Direwolves.
That's the scary thing from Direwolves. They had the item timings. They could always hit the go button. It's why I was wondering, why don't we see the flanking engage? Kennen's already so strong, and you can see exactly how strong this team comp is. And the turret damage. Remember, they're tanking turret at 28 minutes, but they're going to take 2 turrets in no time.
And finally going to get themselves a dragon as well. I guess taking that instead. The bottom lane prepped as well as far as minion waves go, so could maybe even rotate for another objective, and the Wolves needed one good flank of Perfection. He found it.
But what would that fight have looked like if Zahi had a Snowball Aegis like his opposite number Soul Strikes? He went for the damage. He didn't die, but his team certainly did. We're going to see the replay coming through. Soul Strikes gets a very aggressive initiation. He's the one that initiates this fight. But as it comes to the Perfection ultimate, this does so many things. Takes down 2 carries, Xerath and Lucian, instantly. And after that point, Ezreal, he's got his 2-item spike. He's doing a lot of damage. Immunity, they brought this on themselves. They had the advantage. They're the team that outscales. But going for an item like Trinity Force, when you could have just had an Aegis, 20 magic resist, an extra 100 magic resist for your team, would have changed that fight.
And pretty scary to think that King in that situation, despite getting 2v1 by the Maokai and the Trinity Force Rek'Sai, was just in no danger of dying at all with Chuffer there to help him. And now even going aggressive to keep the tanks off him. Blade of the Ruin King has already been completed. And you have to think that BF Sword is turning into a Bloodthirster.
It's going to be a lot of damage and sustain, as you mentioned. Could still be the Infinity Edge if you want to get those burst Trinity Force crit IE crits in as the big damage. But one thing I want to comment on is that Immunity engaged that fight. They're the ones that went in aggressive. We saw the flash coming through from Zahi for the flash unborrow, but they were completely undone by the ward. So the flank ward in that case was just a ward in the middle of the team fight that split up the team. So that was very successful for Direwolves. But recreating that fight for Direwolves will be difficult unless they can, again, have the flash and ultimate, the flash and an aggressive ward down. So they're going to have to really double down on wards. They have a couple of aggressive wards you can see on the minimap towards the enemy red buff. But they're going to need to wait the flash timer for Perfection to, again, wreck the backline, because that's what this cannon can do. And look at the items he has. Second needless large rod. It's not a peel-centric build. There's no Rylai's here. He just wants to explode the backline.
I mean, do they have room now that they've sort of evened things up, even actually gotten ahead in gold and picked up their first dragon? Is that big mid-game-centric siege style that we see from a lot of AAD comps, is that viable again now for Direwolves?
I mean, it definitely is. I mean, usually the reason we say AAD is on a timer is because we see armor stacking, but Ryu, he's had no time to buy any armor items. There's a lot of health coming through, a bit of magic resist, but no armor. The magic resist is going to do a lot against Perfection. Takes a big burst of damage from the culling. 4-1 now, the Lucian, but still very, very strong. It's just what I want to see.
King just gets deleted, though. Uberbro going to get that next kill, and that's the engagement immunity we're looking for.
That was a very surprising. It didn't even see it coming. Explosive cast is used defensively. Immunity, they're looking around Baron.
They might even go in for it. You can see the Trinket Ward being put down as well. Immunity don't quite favor the situation, though. Mid lane looks to be pushing in. Zahi actually will clear out the top side of the map, and instead they'll rotate in, try and get another turret, potentially a kill, but just off screen. T-Gun getting a little low there. Face check Perfection's cannon in. Didn't really like it.
So, I mean, obviously Sieging is still looking good with the low armor values, but returning to what Direwolves do as a comp, because I'm just trying to, you know, over time, think about what Gragas does in this comp. What you can do, which would be very interesting, it's a very high skill cap thing, but is to use that explosive cast to split the back and front line, then get in there with the slicing maelstrom. If you don't get the flank you want, specifically when Kennen's ult is down, if you can separate the threats and get the threats in the back line or towards the Gragas, then the Kennen ultimate can wreck a fight. It's high skill cap because, again, people flash away from that explosive cast. You have to hit a skill shot that, you know, it's a bit unpredictable. You're not just looking for a stun like, for example, the Solar Flare from Leona. You want that displacement to hit just in the right spot. But we could see potentially some crazy things coming out from the Gragas Kennen combo.
Yeah, I like the build your own flank potential there of the Direwolves comp here, but Soulstrike, again, has to show it. He's been a great-looking jungler all split long. Again, mostly on the Rek'Sai Jarvan, but Gragas, definitely something new for him. Kennen, something a bit more at home here for Perfection, but if they can pull it off, King might not have to do as much lifting as he has been doing.
I mean, Sion worked, we have to mention, throughout the game. In this case, the Gragas, it's been a bit slow to warm up. It wasn't a 20 minutes to remember. We'll probably skip that part of the VOD when you're doing VOD review after the game. But again, there's so much potential with the explosive cast. One of the reasons why Gragas saw so much play in the AP, okay, he did a lot of burst damage. Doesn't quite do that anymore, but he does a lot of interesting things. The ability to push people back is one of the reasons why Janna is so popular. Of course, it's effectively a ranged Janna ultimate in a lot of ways. A bit more damage, but still very, very powerful. Direwolves are going to get poked down by Cheese a little bit here, but watch for that Kennen. He's the one to track in a fight.
King so aggressive always. Perfection off to the side there. Does get bounced on no flank forthcoming, but Uberbro will just pop out the culling there, so Direwolves will have that knowledge of that cooldown not being available for at least a short while longer. Sharp actually got stunned there, so without his cleanse looked very, very vulnerable, but they'll be safe. Direwolves continuing to get some wards done, trying to clean out the vision from Immunity's own jungle, and again, look for those flanks, get that aggressive vision down.
I mean, you can see they're looking for flanks. You might think, okay, why not the distortion boots? You see the gank rush or the gank cove happening there for Direwolves, but he's actually bought the home guards. That tells me wants to teleport onto a ward, get in there, flashes up. It's a 5-minute setup to do this, but just like Hecarim, you can wreck a team with the right teleport.
Yeah, and again, Perfection, a player very good with his high-impact ultimate champions, a big playmaker for his team. 4-3-2, not the best start to his game, never has a glamorous-looking KDA, but there's a reason Perfection has won MVP awards this season. Every play he makes in those big games, you really remember.
I mean, he's up 3,000 gold, effectively 2,500 gold compared to his opposite number. The Aegis is now completed by Zahi. Would have been nice to have that earlier, but they do have that completed. But now, I mean, you can see almost has a death cap. Okay, he doesn't have that much magic penetration, just the Abyssal Scepter. But this Kennen will wreck a backline, and they cannot let a flank come through. So they need to get all those sweepers, even maybe get a third improved sweeper from Cheese, just to ensure there are no flank options for the Kennen.
I mean, maybe the next big test here is the Dragon that's coming up. It'll be the third for Immunity if they can tag it, and the second to equalize for the Wolves. It's back 12 seconds or so now. Looks like Direwolves might even try and trade up for a Baron, because they've already started it.
I mean, it's not a trade if you just steal one. And remember, they have huge Baron damage. Even the Blade of the Ruined King, the Bloodthirst Quid as you want. They're starting to realize this, but they need to use that Xerath ultimate and poke it fast.
Well, Baron is now dead as the Direwolves will pick it up. The Xerath ulti far too late there, just in time to get the bad news as T-Gun could be under threat now. Skill shots go a bit wide. King dives in immediately after they all miss, but Soulstrike wants to come back in. He's going to tap Ryu back in, but in the backline, Zahi's going to dive in there, but he takes so much damage from King of Perfection. Zondi's in the middle. Xerath will clean him up there. Uberbro trying to get them away, but Direwolves just have plenty of damage left over. Soulstrike's actually chasing down the Xerath as well. Doesn't matter if they can't kill him. Soulstrike will dodge another skill shot. Shuffer just missing that binding, but King again, aggressive Valkyrie in the auto attack, gets a second kill on the Direwolves. They don't want the Dragon. They're going to keep pushing.
Yeah, they really want to push. That's why they continue to chase down Cheese. They do not want the high wave clear Xerath to come back to the fight. But importantly, the minion wave for Immunity in mid lane has pushed out. They will not take down the inhibitor. They will not break the base. But you have to respect the Baron pressure coming from a double AD comp. And it wasn't. The vision had been strangleholded. whatever the passive gen is there. Stranglehold. We'll go with that. That's a new word for the day by Direwolves, and they picked up a free Baron from him.
And another great initiation there by the Wolves King. We talked about him being an aggressive-looking player, but that was calculated aggression there from that Corki. Dodging the skill shots, going back in, knowing the rest of his team was there to save him. And it wasn't quite the picture-perfect explosive cast into slicing Maelstrom that we sort of dreamed about when we looked at the comp here, but it was a great zoning ulti by Soul Strikes, and that's all they needed to get a couple of quick picks.
I mean, you saw why King went aggressively. They wanted to force a fight when they had a 5-man group that could peel for their double AD. You notice they were 5-man group, whereas Immunity were going and trying to get out of the fight in opposite directions. They weren't fighting as a 5. Still 1-for-1 trade, not ideal, but they still have the Baron buff. They're going to start to push up the side waves in particular. Of course, even though they don't have big wave clear champions out of arguably their jungler, the Gragas, it's easier to wave clear when you have Baron buff.
Yeah, and King has an unreal amount of BS shield, speaking of clearing Baron quickly. That looks to be Infinity Edge coming through 4th there for King, so has the double lifesteal items, very protected against any sort of burst. Can afford to be more aggressive now with the Blade plus the Bloodthirster coming through, but you look down, there's just no armor forthcoming from Immunity.
And that's what I'm saying, like, you think it's aggressive, but that's because you don't see any armor to have to build a Last Whisper on. Already has 40 armor penetration in an AoE from the Gatling gun. And what's the best thing about buying a BF sword instead of maybe the late game insurance of going for the pickaxe into a Last Whisper? Even more turret damage from a double AD comp and a cannon with ranged autos, and the attack speeds augment coming through from Sharp on the W. They're going to explode turrets, let me tell you.
Yeah, and you look down again at Immunity's item choices. Zahi, that Trinity Force could be a random one, so maybe King thinks twice about that 4th pick Infinity Edge. I mean, Spirit Visage here for you, almost a product of how horribly his lane's been going. But Perfection is still ludicrously ahead in CS, 100 up actually in the bottom lane, split pushing now with his teleport available. There's just not the defenses to keep up with all the Wolves' damage. And we talk about outscaling. Immunity just haven't outscaled yet.
I mean, it feels harsh to harp on about Zahi, but it's one of those situations where if they won another pick, where if that aggressive flash Umbara got them a kill, you'd be like, genius. The extra damage from the Trinity Force looks wonderful. But losing that fight, and the Aegis in particular standing out, which wasn't completed for Perfection, wrecking the backline, has kind of lost them their stranglehold in this game after so much aggressive rotations. Speaking of aggression, that's the talisman.
They're going to come back in. Perfection will teleport deep into enemy backlines now as well. Going to be on top of both the carries. Cheese almost gets blown up immediately as Soul Strikes comes in to split the team up. Perfection gets Michaelis and flashes out. Zahi going to go down next as well as Gragas gets a double kill. Actually, they're 3 dead already. Ryu going to be chased down as well. The slow just missing there for Gragas. Uberbro will triumph over King. As always, going to dive back in. And the Dials, they won't get any more kills, but they'll take another turret.
They'll take another turret and a stranglehold on this game. It was looking Immunities. They had 1 foot in the playoffs, but they've been shoved out the door pastry time. The door's wide open for Direwolves. They take the base.
Yeah, that inhibitor going to go down there as well, and that might just be game here. And King, I think you can tell he's maybe chasing that kill record here. Only 2 kills will be an upsetting day for him, but you know what? They'll be happy to take a win. A rough-looking early game for the Direwolves, but they've come up so strong to finish.
I mean, this is double AD. We have to remember. That's why we see so much aggression, but it's not over.
So much damage. Gets 2 already. King going to come back in, but he gets bound up there. Will go down as Lucian gets another kill, but King still fighting in the base. The shield's there for Truffer. The Majestic's coming up massive here. Now Zahi going to chase in, and Direwolves far too aggressive potentially as Cheese snipes him away. Now Truffer could be in trouble. Will fall here as well, so there's nowhere good to go. And Immunity in their own base get an ace.
They are not willing to have the door snapped shut. The door is still open, but it's looking difficult here for Immunity with their base broken. It's a wonderful play. So we're going to see the return of the fight. This is the start of the fight, of course. T-Gun goes in aggressively, and watch how fast he dies. It's not even on the screen. He dies instantly. The Perfection slicing Maelstrom gets 3 targets. Everyone's low health, and Direwolves fighting around their carries. Double AD with a very tanky Gragas in the front does work, and they won that fight, took the structures. Okay, they weren't able to finish the game, but they've already done their objective as a double AD team. They've broke the base.
Yeah, and that's the important thing here. I mean, no teleport out for Perfection, so probably no sneaky backdoors coming through, at least for now, but Dragon's going to be back in a minute 30. Baron will follow shortly after. Immunity have demonstrated they have the damage, they have the tools to win a fight if they can position correctly, but the Dials, it's pretty much even as far as gold goes, and the Dials at 40 minutes in are happy to be in this situation.
It's just such a crazy game. It's such a game of 2 halves, because in the first half, Immunity were doing everything right. It was like 9-1 kill score very early in the game, but against double AD, we still haven't seen an armor item being completed on Ryu. OK has been held back. He's, woefully behind his house. But speaking of being held back.
That's a big pick there. Now Uber are going to go back in onto Chuffer. The Culling will come in and Cheese will get him with the ultimate dragon back up in a minute. But momentum shifts back to Immunity.
Okay, 53 seconds. There's a minute till Baron also. And Perfection won't be able to get there. Doesn't have teleport available. No big structures to take, but hey, get the kills when you can.
Yeah, and just a quick update now as well. I mentioned that King was leading in kills. In second place, by the way, it's Cheese. So they're fighting potentially to make history here. No one's cracked 100 kills yet, and right now with the scores being as they are, they're actually even at 98 apiece.
Both of them have another game to play today, but as you mentioned, the OPL kill record for regular season play undecided today. Zahi goes in again.
And you can tell why both teams may be playing quite aggressively, but Uber Bro going to chase those kills as well. King forced to flash away T-Gun, still has it going. Ward's over, binding in there as well. Zahi immediately flashes over, and that's a great pick. Sharp going to get the next kill there for Trade. Ryu, though, in the back of the base, maybe now caught a little too far forward as Cheese will cover his retreat there. Good binding there coming through. Good stun as well to start things off by Xerath. No base broken, but Immunity continuing to get picks.
And in most scenarios, you take a jungle for 80 carry trade, but now they have no Baron threat to Immunity because Zahi's the one to force. They have to back away. They can take a dragon perhaps. In fact, they've already started DPSing down the dragon. But any hope for a Baron went out the window.
Yeah, and Uber are going to take out the dragon. That's the third for Immunity, so that movement speed crucial in these late game situations with all the rotations and so much of the map being open. The Frozen Heart now done for you. We talked about the scaling potential here for Immunity. It came at just the last moment, but it's finally arrived.
Yeah, and meanwhile, during all this time, both base turrets down now for Immunity. It's going to be hard for them to leave the base. I believe they were spotted out by this ward as they entered the Baron pit, which makes sense, and that's why you can see Lucian trying to come and stop him.
Yeah, Lucian and Xerath there as well, so the big carries from Immunity going to force Dialves away. Even T-Gun coming in for a little bit of support action, but Uber Bro, we've seen it. He's started critting some people, and Lucian, not a joke when it comes to late game damage.
No, and while Immunity have to put multiple members to clear out these inhibitor turrets and the Nexus, I guess, in general. Remember, they do have double globals between Ryu's teleport, which is at the moment on cooldown, and the Void Rush from Zahi. The jungler can react to a Baron very, very quickly. Although in this case, he might want to prep some tunnels because only has one towards the Gromp.
I mean, I like that you bring up Wave Clear, though, because Cheese has gone back and finished, I believe, our first sighting of the Luden's Echo.
Ah, the noble Luden's Echo, the 120 AP item. On Xerath, when you have so much wave clear, I don't really know if you need it, but the movement speed against specifically Kennen coming through could be invaluable. Kennen himself actually has the Aether Wisp, I believe, is just building up a bit more movement speed himself towards Twin Shadows, Lichbane. Actually, no, it's actually going to be a Luden's Echo of his own. Double Luden's Echo action potential.
I mean, the late game Echo is coming through, it looks like, here for these big AP damage mages. But Baron is still alive. Don't forget, Dialves have been posturing fairly aggressively around it, looking to take it away. But they've seen what Immunity can do now in the later stages of these team fights. They're quite strong themselves. So both teams have to be careful. Cheese has the great perk and Perfection. It's all about that big flank. If he can find one more flank, that should be enough for his team to take the victory.
So the blue inhibitor does respond. Suddenly less global pressure. Dialves are going to start the Baron again. They're not the most tanky team. Only Soul Strikes can shrug off the damage. Perfection, though, he's got flash up. He's looking for a flank.
Soul Strikes wants the ulti. Good stun there by Cheese to disengage, and they pop the Righteous Glory. Going to have to reset their next movement speed cooldown.
Interesting that there's been no look towards a Void Staff, just stacking AP. Still going to be a lot of AoE damage. The Locket is now completed for Zahi. Definitely not looking to go for the Void Staff yet, but the result, a lot of damage to the backline.
I mean, Perfection, if nothing else, is just trying to get on top of the carries and do as much damage as possible, I suppose. So maybe doesn't need the Void Staff right now. Perhaps values the movement speed again from the Aether Wisp. But Zahi getting shredded down by King. Not that tanky at all without a major Warden's Mail item completed. Chuffle with a slow coming in, and Zahi going to go down. So that might give Dialves an opening for the Baron.
Trinity Force again, not doing much to help him in that situation. I am actually choosing time to go aggressive, and Perfection gets shredded down.
Good damage there by Uber. Actually going to force to flash out. Massive ulti coming through, and Uber flashes for the kill. A 1-4 on trade, but I think Immunity will take it.
Just can't account for this massive late game Xerath damage. One ult's doing about a third of the health of every member. Remember, he has magic resist with the Abyssal Scepter, but it's getting exploded. And Immunity, they want to break them best themselves. And to be honest, Ezreal's out of position. They can face tank this and take it down.
Yeah, Ryu going to come in as well, but Soul Strike's going to move in potentially. Good ulti there, moves Cheese back, but can't have enough damage. Now King going to rotate in, but not enough there. Ryu still tanky. Ulti comes super sharp. does get bound there. Will Soul Strikes might look to go down, and does there as Uberbro is shredding through everyone. King takes a massive chunk of damage, and these carries are very mobile but so squishy on the Direwolf side.
It's lucky for Direwolves actually that Immunity didn't choose to fight the fight there, as they're in a turret in the bottom lane. It would have been shredded down by a massive minion wave. This game could have gone multiple ways already, and Immunity, they're straight on the Baron.
And it's a long one as well here. Almost 46 minutes have elapsed in a back-and-forth game here. Direwolves currently have the gold lead, but that's quite misleading as far as actual advantage goes, and Immunity will get the next big lead. It is now the Baron buff.
Ezreal goes to check it, then has to back away. The person that was sent to the bot lane is the only person with the scrying orb. That was the only safe way for them to check the Baron. And the result, free Baron to Immunity, and this game swings back in their favor. We said they had it in the late game. Didn't look like they were going to hit the late game 10 minutes ago when the base was broken, but suddenly back on top of this game.
Yeah, that one overextension by the Direwolves trying to win the game when they thought they had it locked down could cost them here. I mean, we're going to start talking about late game dragons as well. The first one was so late in this particular game, so it's actually not a massive deal right now. Fourth for Immunity if they get it, and the third to equalize for the Direwolves if they claim it. So no fifth dragon yet, adding another time into the game, but Immunity got all the momentum now with that Baron buff.
It's crazy how the voluntary choices this game have been the ones that have caused the most pain for their teams. Talking about the build coming through from Zahi, the Trinity Force leading to a lost fight and really putting Immunity on the back foot. It looked like it was going to be irreparable, the damage there, but they were able to get back in the game now in the advantage again. After the overextension, they could have just gone back, shopped. They were all sitting on large piles of gold, but they got greedy to finish the game, and that greed might cost them the game.
Yeah, and the late game's loot and that goes as well. Now done for perfection also. So lots of AoE damage here. Xerath has been a key member in a lot of these team fights here now that Ryu and Zahi especially can act as pretty formidable frontliners, and there's just too much poke and perfection. Who needs that flank without his flash? Just can't get any semblance at all into the fight, and that's going to be the inhibitor going down.
If Flash is down, I mentioned, the only thing they can do is get the miracle ultimate from Gragas, but Gragas getting in the ideal barrel range will basically be melee range, even though he's tanky, not tanky enough to take 5 members damage. So the result is Direwolves on the back foot and losing the inhibitor.
Yeah, Tegan going to follow in for the next rotation, or at least try and find a binding potentially. Just a sapling level spot out Shuffer as Soul Strikes looks to tank that one up, but Immunity have prepped the wave in the top already. Baron buff will move in as well, and another tier 2 turret under threat.
Yeah, 1 Q chunks perfection of half his health. Now he can't realistically look to dive in because he'll just die if he runs in the face of 5 enemies. Direwolves going to lose at minimum their inner turret. And Immunity with this Baron buff getting the maximum purchase. He's still got a quarter left.
Yeah, you saw King Eater Q there as well and take about 30% of his health and damage. Jesus, Xerath, we've talked about it before. He's had not that much show on it, but when he gets it, it looks phenomenally good.
It's just interesting to see every member of Direwolves, apart from their jungler and support, been stacking damage. I mean, gonna be a late game Banshee Veil coming through from Sharp. No defense whatsoever from King. Perhaps not surprising, but if they don't get the flank engage, if the flash is down from Kennen, they literally have to stand back and cede advantage after advantage because they just don't have the items to try and brawl.
And that fourth dragon for Immunity going to add another timer to this game. Immunity, who've been building and building back a lead there after the Direwolves almost took this game away from them, have now got a fifth dragon to look at in 6 minutes time as well. Death time is very late here. We're approaching 50 minutes now in this particular game. And yes, there's damage checked everywhere. It just means this team fights are just unbelievably volatile.
They are very volatile, but the armor items, crucially, that weren't there 10 minutes ago. Now Maokai has both the Frozen Heart and an extra Chain Vest. Randuin's is completed on Zahi. The front line is getting tanky. We expected this at 25, 30 minutes into the game. Okay, it's taken to 50, but suddenly team fights look so precocious for Direwolves. If we don't see the perfect use of the Explosive Cask and the Slicing Maelstrom from a flank from Perfection, who still doesn't have his flash up, I mean, Direwolves, I don't even know how they win a fight.
Well, we'll have to find out as Immunity are continuing to apply pressure. 6-slotted Lucian here, 6-slotted Xerath as well. This turret's just going to melt under all of the damage, basically just from Uberbro alone. And again, we talked about Immunity scaling. Scaled they have, and the Direwolves just have no good-looking answers, it feels like.
Again, it's only the flank flash. 10 seconds, 5 seconds or so from Perfection. That's the big thing to consider. That will give them an option, and there's the Explosive Cask. Not for much result,
yes.
But the flash, they'll take it.
Yeah, they will take the flash, of course. Black Shield was there, but geez, not content with that sort of safety. We'll have to move away here. Stun going to move in. Good poke, actually, as the binding lands again. Then Mikhail's actually burnt there as Perfection. Does now have his flash back up, his posturing a bit more towards the front of the fights, trying to get away in, but it's just such a tough road here for Direwolves because They're so squishy, and all of the Zerath poke, it adds up over every little siege.
And look, Direwolves have to hope that Immunity try and position aggressively while this flash is down from Cheese. That's his only real defensive option. No Mikhail's completed from Morgana. Black Shield if it's on cooldown. That should be the go button for Direwolves to try this engage, because if they're ever going to win a fight, it's when Cheese's flash is on cooldown.
Another Aegis actually completed for T-Gun as well, so going to stack that aura a little bit there, help out Zahi mostly, I guess, in the front line from some of the latent cannon and Gragas damage.
I mean, though it is worth considering that with especially the explosive cask, these are going to be probably fought on multiple fronts. It's probably going to be a 2v2 and a 3v3 happening. Likely that Zahi going to be in the front line, Morgana going to be next to a carry. I actually don't mind the second Aegis, just to ensure against Perfection, who's the one who's most likely to win Direwolves a fight. They have a lot of extra magic resist.
Yeah, now Perfection finally moving in for his last item. It looks like a Void Staff is what he wants here, which we'll get through some of the magic resist that's been stacked up by Immunity, but the carries just might look too strong here, and if they can kill Cheese without Uberbro doing too much damage, that's a good looking fight for Dials. But again, it relies on big ultis from their top lane and jungler, and Sharp and King at this point just kind of have to cross their fingers and hope to play clean up in a big fight.
But Direwolves, they have to be the ones that are aggressing, because they're going to have to contest a 5th dragon. They're going to have to contest a Baron, and you're trying to initiate into a Maokai. So you don't get that flank, you don't have the wards to get that. And look at this map. Blue wards littering the map, no aggressive red wards down from Direwolves. Again, unless we see double flashes from Gragas and Cannon leading to all the carries suddenly falling into the lap of the Slicing Maelstrom, it's going to be so hard for Direwolves to win the fight.
And Perfection that is caught out of position, will go down there. Doesn't even have time to use the Zhonya's through all the crowd control. Ulti coming in, but T-Gun flashes forward so quickly there and is going to lock 2 down with the ulti, just buying some more time. Cheese will use his ulti. Chuffer almost going to go down as Ryu chasing onto King, but King is very scary as Gragas will go down. Chuffer getting chased by a sapling almost goes down there as well. But that's 2 kills for 1. King did get the answering kill, but the rest of Immunity going to chase him, and Corki just has to buy time at this point. King, if he gets stunned, he's going to die almost immediately. Zai going to flash on Burrow, and there's the next kill.
Yeah, there's the kill, and this could be the game for me. This could be their passage into the playoff season. And look, they deserve it from how they've played. They're 4 members strong. Okay, they don't have Ryu to tank up a turret, but still very tanky as Zahi, and only 2 members up for Direwolves.
And importantly, the big damage and structure taker Uberbro still alive and healthy there on the Lucian. Banshee's Veil pops back up. Minions are going to start streaming in, and only Sharp and Chuffer to defend. It's going to be a very long defense here.
Okay, they need to do turret damage. They're focusing on Sharp. He's very maneuverable, still has cleanse up. They just take down the base Immunity.
Yeah, they are just going to take the tails here. Tegan going to try and zone them away. A bit too aggressive, but Sharp trying to get a kill. Actually does get Morgana. Sharp going to move back in now as well, but Immunity, no, they need the base. Uberbro not tanking, but taking out the structure. Sharp needs to kill this Lucian if he can. He goes for Cheese, he gets it, but he's going to go down instead. But Chuffer and Perfection are both back, and the Direwolves this time hold on to their base.
And it's almost a reverse of what happened 15 minutes ago. This game must continue pastry time. Heroic play from Sharp. He knew his limits because he had cleanse available. Could get in there and do so much damage. Deft-esque in his ability to get so much damage out of an Ezreal in a fight. And we all take a deep breath, because still we don't know if Immunity finally get into playoffs. But Uberbro is going in aggressive.
And Perfection is Luden Zeko going to help out a bit, but Uberbro caught off in his own jungle actually by the Gragas there. Kiting away. Perfection is going to chase him down. Lucian is so important. He dashes over, Soulstruck falls him in, gets the knock-up. Perfection going to come in as well, uses the ulti, secures that kill. And the Dials get a key pick, a long death timer for Uberbro.
Uberbro took it upon himself to sit in a brush LeBlanc style and get an exit kill. Okay, 6-item Lucian, but Baron's up. Dies for free. 73 seconds was the death timer. Still 60 seconds. Such a long death timer. That was just a needless kill.
5th Dragon coming up as well. Soul Strikes and Shuffo onto it, but there's a ward there for Immunity, and they don't have any damage. King, okay, finally going to join in, but they're going to trade a 5th Dragon for a Baron, it looks like here. Zahi already down there, actually took away the blue buff for use here as well. An interesting trade for Immunity. They won't give it to Lucian, of course, that 5th Dragon, but Baron's going to go over to Direwolves, and that Dragon should be Immunity's.
I mean, the fact that Uberbro doesn't pick up the 5th Dragon is very significant, but this is a slow Dragon coming through. They should be able to DPS down. They're going to get vision.
Yeah, not going to get it. Oh, geez, actually coming in. Wants to make sure he secures it for his team, and Immunity will get away with the 5th Dragon now, but Dials still 5v4, have the power play. Can they find another pick?
It's the only members who are really going to get big purchases out of the AD and AP are Cheese and Ubro, and significantly Cheese is dead. Doesn't pick up the double statistics, the 12% AD in particular. To be honest, I give the advantage to Direwolves just because they don't have the best wave clear. Gragas, especially late with no AP, isn't going to be able to do much of a support act. So just having the super minions is going to be very important for them in terms of any sort of siege. So I take the Baron in this case over the 5th Dragon, specifically with Uberbro not picking up the buff.
And some of these late game choices by both sides have been very curious to me. Perfection, it's not the Void stuff that he went for. It's actually a late game 6th item Rylai's.
Look, I love Rylai's on Cannon, but in this particular scenario, I don't think it's necessary. I love it for its protection of hyper carries, and he does have 2 AD carries, 2 auto attack based champions in Sharp and King, but him getting into the backline and potentially exploding the Xerath is more important than the peel coming for the mobile Ezreal. I mean, Corki's still mobile, but of course not Ezreal in terms of mobility. The Rylai's, look, if the slow makes the difference, if it keeps the threats away from their double AD, it'll be a masterstroke. But so much magic to stack. Look at this Ryu especially. Got a Negatron Cloak on top of the Spirit Visage. They're stacking magic resist. I'm just so excited to see this fight. It's going to come soon and will decide the game.
Yeah, Uberbro swapped to a GA now as well, so didn't want the Banshees belt anymore. Too many threats on the walls. Needs a second lease on life there. So kind of look down some of the other items. Chopper's even going to need to see Large Rod just to protect those big carries even more. I mean, every fight's balanced very precariously on a thin edge here. But the Baron buff minion is doing a good job, at least for now, of keeping immunity out of the Direwolves base.
And the only item swap I'd like to see, and it depends on gold coming through for the Corki, is sell that Blade of the Ruin King for a Last Whisper. It's got to the point where the armor stacking is happening to some degree. You need a Last Whisper to deal with the Thorn Mail that Ryu's putting out, but hasn't been able to fit it into the build.
No, not yet here, and there's not that many divers on immunity side. The Blade of the Ruin King, good against assassins. And this build especially is great for fending off early divers, but doesn't really need it right now. Like you said, just needs to be a big, consistent threat. We've got Sharp fully stacked up as well. Got his Last Whisper already done, so King probably going to make the swap over at some point, but we'll see. He's a very self-reliant, aggressive AD carry. Maybe he just wants the comfort pick.
So Immunity returned to the Siege, got so many advantages from sieging, but against a Baron buff team, look at Cheese. He's been completely taken out of the fight. Direwolves are actually going in aggressively. Don't think they have the CC to be able to force a fight. They have the Janna for a bit of move speed, but they need to be careful.
That was a great scrying up. Tegan actually going to go aggressive. Uberbro flanking with the culling, and Tegan's got a massive ulti moving in. King is somehow still alive, and that Perfection get to move his ulti in as well. Janna does disengage a bit. Soulstruck's getting low. Perfection uses his zones, but Uberbro on the backline just going off Sharp, trying to kite him around, but they can't do anything else. There's 3 kills down already. Chopper going to be the 4th, and Immunity finally look to have done it. Soulstrikes might be doing something sneaky, but Immunity, with the timers this long, surely this is it.
Yeah, 4 members above 60-second. Only King sneaking in at 55, even with the massive minion wave. Gragas going to look for the back door, but Xerath's already responding. This should be game for Immunity. This should be finally their passage to the playoffs.
Smart play there from Cheese. Actually, Ryu going to port back as well. Soulstrike, so has already been caught up by Cheese. Gragas moving in, but Ryu just going to make sure Soulstrike can't do any funny business. Gragas fairly tanky, but will go down, and Immunity will finally complete the game.
Team Immunity, what was a seesaw game to end their season. Still have an extra game, but they've managed to get into the playoffs. Good performance. Man, both teams looked an inch away from picking up the victory early in the game. It took almost 60 minutes, but Team Immunity, they make your OPL finals.
Yeah, finally getting to the top 4 slot, and I guess their only question is, first of all, can we survive any other games? Because they might have to play tiebreaks tonight, but is it going to be 4th or is it going to be 3rd? They're already into the 4th slot, but can they get 1 position further?
And the 3rd spot will be the cherry on top, Beishu time. It still requires other results to come through, but it's still possible for Immunity. Man, it was a close game. Direwolves, they're going to have to really shake their head. It's their first loss apart from their losses against Chiefs to another team, but yeah, it was an interesting game.
It was, and we have a replay from it as well, so I'm sure we can analyze some of the many long team fights in this game.
Many team fights. This is the last team fight. King really overextends to get a pick. They notice that Cheese is low health, but he can do damage from so much range. And you look down this lineup, there's no flash on Perfection. Their lockdown is literally Perfection only. And he's not in a spot either in terms of his position. He's at the back of the fight. And also with his cooldowns to be able to get the big initiation. They still go for it, and we'll see how it rolls out. King is the one overextending for damage, so we'll roll the tape. And King is the one who's trying to stop the backs. He's trying to push, and he notices the minion wave. That's the big thing. The minion wave is pushing in aggressively, but he eats the binding. We said that so many times during today's cast. He gets away alive, but it doesn't matter because he's doing no damage in this double AD comp, which already has to deal with Ryu. Look at Ryu, burning from the 5th dragon, so tanky. The difference between Ryu with the Vengeful Maelstrom and what Soul Strikes can do in terms of tanking in a team fight is night and day. They pick up the exit kills, and that's your win, and that's the playoffs for Team Immunity.
And Team Immunity, a great last win there, but can they do it again here? I mean, they're going to pick themselves up. They've got a game to play later tonight, but the Direwolves going to see if they can finish their season strong. After a quick break,